Good day and good evening and welcome to Solo Challenge stream with me, Caetsu Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. On this stream, I will attempt to solo Vanaspati and probably also Caetsu's Hyperborea, or however you say that. To do that, I will of course... So, some of you might already realize and be like, how is he going to manage to enter? Because you can't actually enter Endwalker content with an unrestricted party. For some reason, that's not allowed. However, what you can do is you can simply bring 3 friends, enter, and if you specifically queue for a piece of content, then there is no punishment for leaving if you have like a full pre-made. Like specifically if you have a full pre-made, you can enter, and then one of you can just go, you know what, I changed my mind, and just leave. And there's no punishment for that. We tested that 2 weeks ago when I was going into Tower of Zod. So I will probably see if I can maybe convince a few friends to help me join. I'll also need that for Caetsu later. But that's what we're doing. Before we start though, I do think it would be interesting to just talk a little bit about the potential threats in these dungeons. The way that I usually have done these for a long time now is that I will do the Giga pull. Like, if there is a large AoE pull, I'll pull it like normal, and then I'll see if I can actually manage to beat the pull alone. If I can't, then of course we'll have to like split it up in more sections. There's multiple reasons why I do this. The first one being that splitting the packs up in multiple usually doesn't actually make it that much easier. It just makes things take way longer. And then there's also the part that it's more fun to do it the normal way, or sometimes even the ridiculous way, like where you would go, I wouldn't do this pull with a pre-made, like with a full party. And now we're soloing it with Warrior. That is of course also just to showcase how insane Warrior is. With that in mind, the second pull in Vanaspati has 2 really chonky ranged mobs. And the primary limiter for what a warrior can solo has a tendency to be related to how much ranged damage is in the packs, because a huge part about actually soloing a Gigapull is running away. You know, the JoJo strat. So if the mobs are ranged, you have to run sooner than what you would normally, and sometimes running doesn't help. Like, if there's too much range damage, you'll just die while running, which isn't super helpful. So, like, the second pack there, in terms of the bosses themselves, I believe the first boss has a stack marker, I think. I think, yeah, the second boss has a stack marker as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And the last boss, I'm also pretty sure, has a stack marker. But beyond that, they don't have mechanics that require multiple people to accomplish. And there isn't any DPS checks, as far as I remember. So if we can survive the stack markers, then we can beat the boss. I'm pretty sure that the stack markers will be the most dangerous part. There's of course the possibility that one of the bosses just hit really hard for some reason, making it extra difficult. In Caetsu's, let's see. The first boss has a stack marker. The second boss, actually all 3 bosses have stack markers there as well. But there's again no DPS checks. So like that's that. If we get through these 2 fast enough, I'll probably also try a sheer scope. But no guarantees on that one. With that said, hey Archibuster, hey Zarv, hey Gazel, hey Coco, hey Travers, hey Girahin, hey Aradel, and hey Derpy. Hope you're all doing very well. Let me see if I can convince my friends to help me. Yeah, Yumia. Hope you're doing well. Are you winning in Nier? Mm-hmm. I guess that is a kind of winning, Yumia. Right, so I will just go over how this works one more time. So I will queue into the dungeon. Because we're a full pre-made, we enter as a pre-made, as opposed to like queuing normally. Once we're inside, everyone else can leave. Preferably like they do, because if they're there just hanging out, then I cheat by getting free stat buffs. Can, as in, there's no punishment for leaving, and I don't need them anymore. Like, to help me enter. Like, it doesn't, like, pull in randoms if they leave. Yeah, I'll just put it in party as well in case in case anyone didn't hear it. No, I'll need people again once I get out, Argybuster. Yeah, have I remembered everything on my end? I have some burst potions, I have some actual I don't even know if those potions are helpful anymore. I think they heal for like a sixth of my health, maybe a fifth. They're getting worse, at least. I think that's everything. Here we go. Welcome to the apocalypse. Good luck. Thanks. Right, and see, here's the thing. You might be thinking, oh, but couldn't you just say everyone has to be a tank so they don't give the party bonus? But weirdly, if you're in a party and there's only one role, then you still get a 1% party bonus because the tank role is there. So, like, just having another person present counts. Oh, yeah, we got orogeny because we're 86 now. I have a feeling I'll have to run a lot this time. Yeah. Guys, bi-monthly jog. Yeah, exactly. These mobs is like, these were the ones I thought were easy. Like, I was expecting this to be easy. But they hit hard. There's also a lot of them. That doesn't help. You boy. Vitra just, yeah, he's just hanging out. I don't even know what he's looking at right now. He's just shocked. Why did you only bring one person? Where's your friends? Didn't you even bring Estinian? I'm pretty sure he'd help. Are you sure about this? Really? Seriously? Well, I mean, you're the warrior of light, I guess. I guess you'd know. Me just running around, like just running back and forth like a Scooby-Doo movie. A little annoying that one of the mobs keeps falling behind somehow. I don't think it even came up last time when we were doing Tower of Babel, because there was just other things that were somewhat more significant. But, I mean, we also got the Equilibrium upgrade where it gives a heal over time effect. I don't know if that ever came up. Can't actually remember. Onwards! I mean, Vitra, there was another way. You could have helped.
I shall silence the beasts of the air. Pray continue onward.
Yeah, these are the ones that are the extra scary part about this section of the dungeon. Ow. Ow. And they are also the reason why I'll have to run super early. And also do this. Because those two will just tear me down while I'm running. Yeah, that's a bad sign. And them having random attacks they'll use at weird intervals certainly doesn't help either, because that means that they'll randomly fall behind. And I have a harder time, like, laying damage on them while I'm running away. And I need one of them to die soon, I feel. Oh. Mallory says, is Warrior the best job for soloing? Once Warrior gets raw intuition, it is so good at it that there's almost no reason to even consider other options unless you specifically want to not use Warrior. Below the level where Warrior gets raw intuition, there's a lot more, like, competition in that aspect. Like, other jobs have more of an ability to compete. Where there's even, like, in lower levels, there are like points where something like Scholar is really, really good at soloing. But eventually mobs start hitting way too hard for a healer. And then you just end up like, you'll just stand there spam healing yourself until you die. They hitting harder suddenly, or did they get a crit? Can they get a crit even? Don't think they can. Pretty sure they can't, at least. Are they hitting harder because I didn't have defensive cooldowns? Hey, Caetsu, and not the wheel. I hope you're doing well. Oh boy, I needed Holmgang for that. I'm having some trouble actually targeting the right mob for that. I should have used Shake It Off first. Can I survive? Why are you falling behind now? You're specifically the one that I want to focus. Ow. Gazel says, is this doable with Paladin? The thing is that this is something that we talk about most of the time on these streams, is that if there was any tank that might have the healing capacity to, like, keep up with Warrior even remotely, it would probably be Paladin. The problem is that for, like, at this level, now that Paladin actually heals when they use Holy Circle and Holy Spirit, maybe the big problem specifically with that is that you only get those heals once, like that healing burst once per minute, and the warrior's working with way more healing way more often. So I don't know, but if any tank could do it other than the warrior, it probably would be Paladin. Like, if anyone could, it's probably Paladin. Yeah, that also makes sense, Traverse, that it feels like you're bringing, like, a weaker tank. I will, however, say that when you're doing content with a regular group, if you're playing well, then, like, if you're actually, like, if you're good at it, I think most healers can't actually feel that much that you specifically are, like, the weaker tank. Like, the key thing is, like, if it's a Sage, they'll probably do some healing anyway. And yeah, exactly, Cole. That is precisely the problem, that it doesn't really matter whether Paladin has the self-healing to do it, because the real problem here is whether Paladin can do it in time. Like, if Warrior can do this without stopping to cast Clemency on itself, but Paladin would have to do that sometimes, probably, then Paladin will fall behind. And there's just no way around that. That's just how it will be. Valerie says, as a healer main, Dark Knights make me cry in dungeons. Well, I have played Dark Knight well enough, and I know Dark Knights that play well enough that that the healer finds it feels confident, like scholars spending their resources on energy drain and stuff. So the problem is that your average Dark Knight isn't good. Like, there's a lot of Dark Knights that play Dark Knight because they want to be a big edgelord, not because they want to tank. And if that's the case, then they're probably a lot more likely to, you know, not, you know, actually use their defensive options well. Yeah, exactly, Traverse. Like that's the key problem, is that, how should I say it? The reason why warriors feel so consistent is because warriors, like, you need, like, the difference in defensive capacity of an okay warrior to a master warrior is almost non-existent. However, the, like, defensive capability of a terrible warrior, like, it has to be an absolutely atrocious warrior before it's actually bad. Whereas Dark Knights, they have to be kinda good, just baseline, for it to not be clear that, oh, I'm healing a Dark Knight. Right? Oh, nice. Is the melee uptime configuration. I think it is, like, the thing is, and that is actually an interesting aspect with picking up your first tank, is that a lot of players recommend warrior as your first tank because ultimately at max level, or like at low levels, it's pretty forgiving, all things considered, and it's complex enough. And then at higher levels, it just becomes like insanely busted. So why, like, it makes it even more forgiving, right? But the problem with doing that is that you might not actually know how to, you know, tank without being a warrior. Like, you've only, like, tanked as a warrior, and when you're tanking as something else, it feels like you're choosing, like, the weak mode, like the weaker tank, because you're missing something crucial. Also, thank you for celebrating 5 months of membership, Matthew. Thank you so much. New icon. Is it? I think so. Exactly, Nera. That is kind of the idea, that if you know what you're doing, then you also are actually aware that defensively, I've described Dark Knight tanking defensively as like the it's the astrologian of tanking, because as Atypical Warrior mentioned, you have buttons. Like, you have buttons, but you have to press them. Like, you have to choose the right one. You have to actually use them. Which causes Dark Knight to feel kinda button spammy, both damage-wise and, like, defensives-wise. Thank you for celebrating 10 months of membership, Emir. Thank you. Get a free one. Blade. Found Warrior kind of boring in max level. Gunbreaker just hits that sweet spot for me. Yeah, for me, the way that I've gone about it is that most of the time, like, I switch it up. I play different tanks, but if I don't feel like getting too too fancy, I'll usually just play Warrior because it is so simple. Also, turns out this boss doesn't have a stack marker after all, and I remembered incorrectly. A really interesting gotcha with this boss is that it has that mouth off mechanic, and then the what is left, what is right attack, they snapshot at different times. So if you think, oh, he's like, the first snapshot is over, and then you just charge in and you get hit. And you get smacked. Punk Fiddler says, I hate that boss because I suck at the spinning hand thing. Yeah, that's also why I take a really long time to figure out when to move. Because if you can just get it right, instead of panicking. Yeah, that's also a way to do it, Archiebuster. That is also a way to do it, exactly because, as Cole said, it ends before the explosion. So you can actually just wait. I just try to move in time because I'm not sure I'll make it, and I don't... Like, I'm not 100% sure, and I don't... Like, that would be the dumbest way to wipe. Is being that greedy. And, like, that's why I move early. It's because if I wipe now... Then we get sent like 7 minutes back. And with nothing to show for it. Like, that's also why Tower of Zod took so long 2 weeks ago. It was because I wiped a few times. And yeah, I agree, Atypical Warrior. Like, that's the thing, is that you can be incredibly strong as a Dark Knight. You just have to use your cooldowns right. That's just the key difference, that if you have no healer, then Warrior becomes busted, right? Like, that's the thing, is that Warrior is like a healer in a tank outfit. Is this your first attempt? Yes. I've never tried to solo this dungeon before. Can I eat the like button? I mean... You can certainly try. Oh wait, we have the good configuration. And I'm just here squandering it. Ow. Yeah, we're in good time. As long as each, like, third of the dungeon doesn't take much more than, like, 30 minutes. Then we can make it. The question is whether one of the bosses takes significantly longer. But I have the impression that bosses that, like, waste your time usually is balanced to have, like, a bit less HP to compensate so that a boss doesn't drag on for too long. I think you're missing a couple DPS players. Yeah. I don't know quite what... I don't quite understand what you mean, Cole, when you say that they should make Abyssal Drain into an actual heal. It does heal. But what do you mean? It does in fact heal, and even heals per target. It just for some reason only heals half as much as Bloodwetting per target. It feels weak. That's fair. That's a fair argument. It is weird that it's a 1 minute cooldown. It's supposed to be like kinda like special to Dark Knight in a way. But it heals for less than the button that does like 5 other things, right? Like Warrior gets a button that does everything, and then Dark Knight gets... Like Dark Knight gets a button for everything. Yep, that would be a way to balance it more, Oscar. That is actually also something we've talked about previously. That would be a way to make it a little bit more fair, if it didn't like just multiply by the number of targets. That would probably make it more fair. Which thing has a 90-second cooldown, Darth? Abyssal Drain has a 60-second cooldown at least. But Salted Earth, of course, has a 90-second cooldown. I mean, Cole, they actually kind of question mark nerfed Bloodwedding or raw question mark raw intuition into Endwalker. And when I say kind of, it's because in Shadowbringers, Nascent Flash was made so that it could target yourself. Raw intuition didn't work the way that it does now. So basically, you had the choice between a higher damage reduction cooldown in Raw Intuition or Nascent Flash to heal yourself and potentially someone else. In Shadowbringers, Nascent Flash basically just healed you for 25% of the damage done, which sometimes is more than the 400 potency we get now. Sometimes. Which means that I believe the observation was that, relatively speaking, when you used things like Chaotic Cyclone, it healed you more in the old system. So they have nerfed it. It's just that they didn't like quite nerf it. It was more like a side grade in a way, but people were complaining. However, I believe they complained because if you read the tooltip, now we know that what they mean is per target hit. But when you read the tooltip originally, it sounded like what they meant was 400 potency, period. Which is, of course, a nerf. Oh boy. I am glad that we're ahead on time. Because otherwise the fact that many of the enemies in this dungeon really take their time would be a lot more annoying. yes, Punk Fiddler, you don't want to do that. Basically, if you single target the mobs down, what's going to happen is that, like, yes, you can do, like, if you're choosing between attacking 1 or 2, like, if you have 3 targets, then AoE always does more damage than single target. Pretty much across the board. It's, like, balanced perfectly like that. Dark Knight actually gains damage by using their AoE combo on even 2 targets because of the blood gauge gained and the mana gain, or the MP gain. You still use Blood Spiller on 2 targets though. But the reason why you don't want to single target the mobs down 1 at a time, just in a, like, general sense, is because if you single target them down, then if we have these 4 mobs, if I single target down 1 of them, then I will have to deal with the remaining 3 for longer than if I had cleaved all 4 of them. So yes, you're getting rid of 1 mob. You're getting rid of 1 mob sooner, but all the other mobs are going to be alive for longer as a result. And you'd rather get rid of all of the mobs at the same time. It's both faster overall, and it will also make you take less damage in total. The one exception to that is if, obviously, you're taking so much damage that a single mob, like, that you need something to leave, like, you need something to die for you to survive, then that's a different story, but that's not really a thing in this game. Like, usually the packs aren't like that. So yeah, I don't recommend you do that, Punk Fiddler. That is also why in all of my guides I say, well, when there's so many targets, you use AoE. Because it's a DPS gain and more damage equals more enemies dead sooner. And basically, the best advice I can give you there, Punk Fiddler, and this is something that I've said before, don't try to get too smart with it. It's not that complicated. Like, just cleave everything. It's faster. Even if it feels like you're being galaxy brain by single targeting the mobs down because it's safer or something. It's really not. It also would only actually help if everyone's single targeting your target. Because if they're not attacking your target, then you are simply just not contributing to the overall objective of killing everything. Nero says, bees come to mind as one of those very specific cases where focusing a single target makes sense. Sometimes, actually. Because the reason why it's only sometimes is because depending on your group, like in Sunken Temple of Khan, there are cases where the group simply does so much damage that they can deal with the bees and everything else just fine. And they'll still kill everything on time before the bees go boom. But that's not always the case, which is why I say, like, yeah, sometimes it's true. Happy Mother's Day, Vanaspati residents. Oof. And there's the Hall of the Novice dude that tells you to not to sing. Actually, the Hall of the Novice dude, Felipe, I believe he says establish aggro with an area of effect attack. No, wait. Establish aggro with your 1-2-3 combo, I think. And then use your AoE attack or something like that. He actually suggests that you switch it up, which is wrong. Like, nope, that's not how we do this. It's quite funny. Caetsu says, do you think it's possible to do extreme trials on the free trial? Sure, it is possible. I will say that if you're going to do like extreme trials on the free trial, then obviously you're queuing into content. Those other players, some of them might also have queued into the content, notably the other Sprouts and free trial players. But if there's anyone in the group with a mentor crown, they didn't queue for that. Like, they're there to help you, right? Like, they are, like, some of the mentors will stay and help you. They might leave, though. What I mean by that is that the other people in the group should expect you to have done your homework. So make sure you've, you know, read up a guide and all that stuff, and, like, prepared yourself. But yes, you can absolutely do extreme trials. I don't recommend doing it. Like, I don't recommend doing it, but you can, and on a free trial it might be difficult to do it, like, with Party Finder and stuff. And at high, like, once you go past a Realm Reborn, the extremes start to get a lot harder, in which case it might no longer be possible without being extremely good. So, like, just keep it in mind. You know, it says I always queue Mentor Roulette with hope to get an extreme. Yeah, but you're actually, as far as I understand, you're actually the minority. I'm, like, when I queue for Mentor Roulette, I just queue and see whatever I get. Like, just whatever. And just do it. Our Rotito says, what would you say are your top 3 favorite jobs in terms of fun? That's a good question. I really do enjoy Sage. And while it can get boring some days, I also do enjoy Warrior. And among DPS, I find Black Mage is really interesting to, like, to play around because it has such a huge amount of flexibility and tricks you can learn. Like, Black Mage, Sage, and Warrior would actually be some of those that I find very fun to play. Philippe says you could just join a group doing it blind. See, the problem, Philippe, is if you're on the free trial, you can't actually join anyone, as far as I understand. Can you join Party Finder groups? I feel like it's always like a case of someone saying yes you can, and then someone else going I don't think you can, and then no one tests. So I don't actually know. You can join Party Finder. Fair enough. In that case, the problem is, of course, that you'd need someone else to make the group. Iterate, I think you're confusing Sprout with free trial. Valerie says, do you do Savage and Ultimates? I haven't done a Savage in quite a while, and I haven't actually done an Ultimate. I just focus on other content. But I have rated Savage, and before I came to Final Fantasy XIV, I was like a kinda hardcore raider in World of Warcraft. Like, I know all the things, like, that are comparable. And I do my research. But it's a matter of finding... like, the time to do it also. Hey Kuma, hope you're doing well. Oh wow, that did a lot of damage. Yeah, that's fair enough. If free trial players can join Party Finder groups, normally, then the only limitation... I was pretty sure I made that, but apparently I didn't. then the problem for a free trial player is, yeah, you want to run like Ifrit Extreme, but you'd need someone else to make the group. Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't actually need a home gang for that. 42,000. I think with Rampart. But also with a vulnerability stack. I'm just going in now. Yeah, I am actually standing in the center of the knockback to test that theory we talked about the other day, that can you actually avoid the knockback by standing in the middle of it? And so far, no success, as you can see. It's not looking good. Is it the true center? See, I don't know. But for someone to claim that they can do it consistently, it can simply not be perfect center, can it? Like, it's impossible that it would be perfectly center. Indeed, it would presumably be pixel perfect center, but if someone can do it consistently, then it can't be that perfect, I don't think. Maybe they have a way to be perfect. That is possible. The question is, how would you do that? With tools. Yeah, well, the thing is that you would still, like, even if you could see your exact pixel coordinates, with this movement speed, it might be really, really hard to place yourself perfectly on a single pixel with all this other stuff happening. That was a fluke. I had inner release. No, I mean, I had inner release, which means I was immune to knockbacks. So obviously it didn't work this time. The tool would move. Cole, I don't think a tool like that would fly under the radar in the same way that a tool that just tells you where it is would. Matthew, see, it works. See, that is actually part of the reason why when people say, oh yeah, you can just avoid this knockback by doing so-and-so, or this thing you can avoid in so-and-so way, why I get like really sus, because often it's like, nah, you just didn't notice that you're a warrior. Because that is like a really, really classic way of misinterpreting how something with a knockback works. Like, that's the entire premise of how we stayed believing that Holmgang can give knockback immunity for so long, because like if you have a built-in knockback immunity for 25% of a fight, then there's a really high chance you just happen to be immune when you use Holmgang anyway, right? Jiposa says, that time you were immune, I bet you were also See, that would be the saddest part. That is actually why, when I'm testing things for, like, Mythbuster, I bring people so that I can, like, make sure that there are no mistakes. So that I don't miss it if I got it right. Thank you, Aradel. Amu says, I feel like getting inside the bubbles can be so finicky sometimes. Yes. Those kinds of mechanics are really janky. Like, consistently janky. Over years. And what I mean by that is that there is a mechanic basically just like this that was removed in ARF before they reworked ARF, a theory-chemical research facility. The boss had a mechanic where you had to hide inside like a void rip, and if you didn't, you got every single debuff in existence except Doom, I think. Like, basically every debuff you could imagine, you get that one. And if you step in it in time, and in time is like 7 seconds in advance, because it's so janky. Like, so insanely janky. Yeah, I agree, Cole. We actually discussed this like a few days ago on the community server on Discord. The hypothesis is this: if you have a circular knockback, like the one in this fight, right? What happens if you're standing perfectly in the center? Does it default? Like, does it default to a specific direction? Or does it just go, well, you came from that side, so it'll just send you that way? Or something like, what's the idea there? And we could test it. We just need a little bit more structure test. Emerald Ashen says, do you like Wrath videos on soloing the entire game? It's an interesting challenge. Here's a fun fact. If you go far enough back in the archives of my channel, I actually made a video saying why you can't solo Final Fantasy XIV. Right around when he started his journey. So I've actually known that he was doing that from, like, week 1. I just went and, like, did the research and went, yeah, it's not possible. So I already knew before he had barely started that at some point he would have to start, like, making some, like, necessary adjustments to do it. It is interesting. And I also know he's not the only person that does it. It's just that, like, he's the one that made it popular, right? There's like a community of players that try to solo the game on a single character. Kyoto is pretty much impossible to test without a tool to see coordinates. Oh, there is a way to test it. The way that I would test it is you find a mechanic that is a circular knockback centered on another player. Then you use Ninja's Shikuchi with a macro to jump to the exact, like to the location of your target. And then you have the ninja teleport exactly to where the person with the circular knockback is. Then you would already have an idea that it might work. Now, what I would suggest doing then is, just in case it doesn't work, just in case it does not work, that the ninja gets tossed in a random direction, I would recommend bringing multiple ninjas, because then you can have ninjas from different sides do the same setup, and then you can see that then you would discover that there's a possibility that Shikuchi doesn't teleport you to exactly where the target is, for example. Like maybe it's like 1 pixel off, in which case you'd have to set up a different test to test the original hypothesis, but that is a way to do it. Goldbear's Extreme has a player-centered circular knockback. Yeah, I mean, I would probably prefer testing something like this in an unsynced fight, not a current one, because that would have doing it unsynced means that you have the space to test these things without risking dying. Could you test it with 7 ninjas and 1 Blue Mage using right round? I guess you could, but I feel like there you would run into the alternative possibility that the right round might be inconsistent. Like that right round isn't the same. The argument for just testing a random circular knockback effect is that, I mean, it's unlikely, like to say the least, it's unlikely that they would reinvent the wheel every time they're making a circular knockback effect. So if you can test one and discover that it works like that, then they probably all work like that. That being whatever it is that you discover. A good example is actually the Stigma Dreamscape one on the first boss. The electric slide that Azen mentioned. Shukuchi, Ajipasta. Mia says, didn't you become the first person to do the black F with a normal job synced? Based on what I was told, yes. Like, I was told that in the community of players that actually solos content synced like that, there's no one else that actually managed to beat the black F synced. It was usually unsynced, but like, you know, like level 57 or 59 or something like that. But it's not exactly, it's complicated because it's not exactly the same, obviously. Because I, of course, did it synced down. I didn't use a solo character from start to finish. But that was where I discovered that there's like an actual like there's not just a bunch of people doing it in their own time, but there's like some level of community doing this. Basically Iron Man, Final Fantasy XIV. Why do these birds hit so hard? Right round in Malika as well. The reason why that wouldn't really work is because right round lands on a player, doesn't it? Well, I mean, it does land on a player, so if you can just, you know, just stand on it with the person who got hit, that could work, yeah. Good point. It could work. Should kill them at the same time. If there's 2 mobs, then it is actually better to single target. Specifically because that's how the warriors balanced. The trick to this pull actually is if we kill one of the birds, the second trash pack comes down. And the second trash pack means that I can heal faster. Which also means that the amount of damage the bird does becomes less problematic, weirdly. And also I need this pull like this. I can take this. Like I can take it. I just need the mobs to die faster. So I'm trying to do it as fast as possible. But I see what you mean, Imya, in that I could have like spaced it out so that both of the chicken guys die at the same time. I see what you mean. Yeah, that sounds about right, Nera. It puts down an AoE on a player, like smack dab on them, and then does a knockback from there. So that could work. Praetorium Nero. Oh yeah, that's also one, right? You camped the round, you'd probably die. Not necessarily. You go in unsynced. You have like 3 or 4 times more HP than the boss expects. You'll probably survive. Just make sure you're a tank. Halsey says, would ground applied circular knockback and player centered knockback follow the same principles though? You're right. It might not be the same. But if we find that player centered knockback sends you somewhere, even if you're standing exactly on top of it, then there's probably very, very little reason to test the ground placed one, because it probably works the same way. And the ground placed one is probably way harder to test, I would guess. Although, knowing the suggestion of right round, maybe not. Hey Vizels, hope you're doing well. Also in regards to the proximity AoE thing, Arjibuster, the sequence that the Armadillo does is place the ball thingy on someone, grab the ball thingy while doing right round, throw proximity AoE in the center, donut AoE happens. So the proximity AoE comes after. Also, my food buff ended like 30 minutes ago. Let me just do this, and let's go. Schwabanu. Yeah, orb, actually. Orb. So the scary thing is that I'm pretty confident this boss actually has, he has a stack marker and a tank buster. And I need to know how much the stack marker, how much that hurts. I agree, Cole. I absolutely agree. The reason why I'm saying I don't know is because I feel that it is a little dismissive to say I don't think it would work like that and then just never test. If you can test, it would be interesting to see. Because it wouldn't be the first time that I tested something that people said, like, basically had just for eons at this point just said, no, I'm pretty sure it works like this, and then just not tested it. And then I tested it and discovered that, no, it actually doesn't work the way that people thought it did. I'm pretty sure this boss has a stack marker, or is it spread markers? I remember that there's, like, in the second phase, he sometimes does, like, this thing where he has, like, the knockback, and you have to be really careful with where you land. But come to think of it, maybe the reason for that is because it's spread markers. If it is spread markers, then this is Lamau easy mode. We already won. Left, right, left. There we go. That mechanic looks way more complicated than it is because it has only 2 patterns. Like, it's not even like, oh yeah, this thing is predictable, but then there's this other random thing. No. That mechanic has 2 patterns. That's it. But yeah, I do agree that it sounds absolutely unlikely, to say the least, that if you stand smack dab on top of a knockback effect, that, like, in a circular knockback effect, where thus it wouldn't have any direction to send you, that it would just not send you anywhere. Because exactly, it is probably not coded to not knock you back if it can't find a direction to throw you. It will probably just throw you in... Like, maybe it'll just throw you north. Which is exactly the reason why I said you'll need multiple ninjas for this. Because there might be some system to it. Like, maybe all the ninjas get knocked north. Maybe they get thrown in random directions. Or maybe they get thrown in exactly the direction they came from. Which itself sounds weirdly unlikely. Because that would suggest that the game keeps track of where you came from. Unless the game just goes, well, you're facing this way, so you probably came from this direction. And just, like, defaults to that. Who knows? But that's interesting. Okay, maybe we haven't won. This boss does hit rather hard. Ow. Ow. I should be better about using my Thrill of Battle with Equilibrium when I have both of them. I'm not really good at that. This boss probably has a high kill rate. Yes, actually, this boss I don't have numbers on this, but he probably has a really high, like, he has a lot of kills under his belt. Let's just say, for 2 different reasons. One of them being some players just don't get it. Like, some people just don't get this boss. And the other thing... Ow. Is that at least at the start of Endwalker, there was a bug where, like, you see how, like, on my screen, there's this, like, basically a warning indicator going, it's the white part that'll explode, or it's the red part that'll explode. Some players couldn't see it. As in, it didn't appear at all. Incidentally, they could also not see the mask warnings in the first Ivalice raid. Like the one where it tells you whether you should listen or not. So it was consistently not working. And that would absolutely also get some kills. Another reason why I know is because, like, ages ago, I think it was when I was leveling Gunbreaker, like near the start of Endwalker, actually. I think maybe it was also just when I was doing leveling roulette for some reason. But I had a healer in my group that just didn't get it. So they would die. Like, they would basically die eventually. It was bound to happen. And I was Gunbreaker, I wasn't Warrior. Like, yes, I could heal a lot, but are you seeing this? That's why they need voice lines. Yes. Absolutely. Voice lines just make it better. Ice bind you! Yeah. And I've said that before. Like, I love bosses with voice lines. It makes the fight more memorable. It makes the mechanic more clear. It also somewhat removes the need for, like, our raid leader to call out the mechanic because the boss did it themselves. And so it's just fun. Flames take you! This shouldn't kill you! Well, that's a really inefficient way to be a boss, isn't it? Let me use this attack that won't kill you. I thought you were trying to kill me. Another fleeting diversion. Uh-oh, this is going to hurt. Guess my time's up. Where my rhyme-kissed blades? Now that's a classic of this channel. I need power, light or dark, it matters not. Ether to fortify my blade. Like, yeah, that's actually derpy. That is one of the best examples of how incredibly important voice lines are. I don't think that would be nearly as memorable if we didn't have him going, a test of your reflexes, every time he did it. Such savagery ill suits you. Uh-oh, that's a bad idea. No. I was actually sitting here waiting with using inner release because, like, I need to get knockbacked here. And then I just, like, stopped thinking about it. And then I use it. Like, oh, nice, inner release. And from the deepest pits of the seven hills to the very pinnacles of the heavens, the world shall tremble. Unleash Ultima! Is your throat okay? Oh yeah. I do that voice a lot of the time when we do small Kai streams. We need to distract Kai more. No! Not like this. Such devastation. This was not my intention. The weird, let's just imagine Swabano here just hearing my character say all that. It's just like, what are you doing? Just screaming random voice lines at the boss. I think I can take it with this. Ow. Screaming voice lines gives a minuscule damage boost. Today, my theory shall be proven as dead.
The Empire is a cancer! This is far from over.
Sloppy. Can you weather our trial? This shall be a mercy. Filthy rats! Imagine if the Warrior of Light canonically quotes his enemy's memorable lines. From ashes you came, and to ashes you will return. Is that how he says it? I think it's something like that. Ow. 70 minutes? They're around 70 minutes, right? That's pretty good. So. And he's here. And he's gone. And he's here. And he's gone. And he's here. And he's gone. Ta-da! It's really weird when bosses do that. Chaiji. So yeah. I am righteousness, and righteousness will prevail, or something like that. Is it shall or will? I see now. This is the passion of my ascension. That's I mean, canonically, we are kind of the big dumb meat stick who sometimes notices things because echo. I find it plausible we would steal voice lines that sound cool. Yeah. It's just the player character like, I remembered something, and then they just spout it. Stay not your steps. What would Kai's voice lines be if she was a boss? That's a good question. What do you all think? If she was a boss, what would her voice line be? What would be the thing you'd quote? Blade. Just nothing else. Just blade. That's the sentence. Fellcleave. Snowball. More pink. Well, I guess with a more feminine voice. Cool. So Caetsu's pulls might be a little sketch, but the bosses will be boring. Maybe. She sounds just like that. Die from cuteness. Yeah. The deep voice makes it funnier. The power to transcend. Even small Kai sounds like that. That's an interesting question. If Kai was a boss fight, would it be 2 bosses? Or would small Kai be the door boss? Or would small Kai, or would this Kai be the door boss? Surprise math exam! Oh yeah, I could imagine that if Kai was a boss, she would probably include a mechanic that was a way harder version of a Construct 7. Small Kai wipes the raid if you fail the DPS check. Gaza says, we will be the ads. Oh yeah, we absolutely would need like an ad phase where the cult comes in. Just an army. Like 100 people. Over 100 people at least. At least. Maybe a bit less, and then they're like empowered by all the others. Just standing out in the ring, just channeling ether to them. Small Kai would be the entire cult of the pink, and then Small Kai. Once you beat her, a PNG of you is the final boss. It's just me, like... My static has been progging on Agibuster phase for a week, but we keep getting 8. To me, my knights! Phase 1 is small Kai, phase 2 is this guy, and phase 3 is the secret big Kai, and it just progressively gets bigger each phase. And the question is, how many phases are there? Who knows? Right. Should we see if we can get into Caetsu? Oh, Coco's AFK. How would Imian work? Just explosions. Just runs in and it's just suddenly circle AoEs all over the place. But you're not AFK. Well then. Really good in Kai. We have talked a little bit about that. If I made another Kai, would she be a Regadin or an elf? Maybe elf would be more fitting, given the sheer amount of chests I go out of my way to grab. I'm basically Freerin, right? No, Coco, I wrote in the chat specifically looking for Ardell and Sip because you're already there. I kind of assumed you wanted to help me. I'm sorry. It could also be a bunny, Kai, but I felt like elf made a lot of sense because they're so tall. In that case, Regan in the tallest place. That is true. If there's anything you even have to worry about in Caetsu, the concerns in Caetsu, in my opinion, is that I'm pretty sure the first boss, I'm pretty sure actually that all 3 bosses have stack markers in that fight, or in that dungeon. The first boss is also one of those that wastes an enormous amount of time, which I doubt that it'll be a problem, given we just did Vanaspati with 20 minutes to spare, but it's reasonable to consider that it could be a concern. The second and third bosses don't really have, like, time wasters in the same way that the first one does. So I think the one thing that would be scary is, I think there's a stack... or is it again a spread marker on the last boss? I'm pretty sure there's a stack marker, but earlier I had already concluded there was a stack marker on a boss that absolutely didn't have a stack marker. Exactly, Bog Fiddler. Exactly. I remember when we did Mount Gulg, and the final boss took way longer because she leaves the arena all the time. And the weirdest thing is that these kinds of bosses, because they waste so much time, I have an actually ridiculous amount of cooldowns, because they just let me have free time to like tick them. Thank you for helping.
Please, turn back, else I might be forced to.
Oh, well, if you might be forced to, then... Well then. Exactly, Ajibosa. To what, indeed? Is it the same thing Suzaku says? All I ever wanted was to... Yes, Suzaku? What would you like to do with what's his name, Tenzin? What is it? What would you like? What would you like to do with him? Tell the class. We're all listening. What is it I get at 88? Not exactly the time to check now, is it? A trait. An extra onslaught. Excellent. I didn't even realize. Stair loop time. That would be pretty funny. I actively go out of my way to try and run in as straight lines as possible, because every time you have to turn, the mobs do that little sucker punch. And sometimes that's too much. And 90 is going to be great. That's going to be hilarious. Because then we get the big funny button. Run up, jump off, run up, jump off. That could also work, but I wonder if that would make them predictable. Let's try. And I get a lot of hits right around this corner. Like, this helps. And then one of the mobs actually left the pack. I'll see you later, Ymir. Thank you for checking in. Why do I bunny hop so much? Yeah, it's about standard movement controls and facing. I think I talked about it in the last solo challenge stream. Yeah, you said you already you remembered why. I also just hop a lot because I think it's fun. Oh, I didn't even realize. It looks like some of them have tank busters. Apparently the lions are dead. How did they die first? Did I focus them? Didn't feel like I did. They took the lion's share of the damage. Womp womp, tough crowd. Ugh. Alright, so I have an idea. We have two mobs with like enormous like bodies so that you can't really stack them on top of the rest of the pack without it getting really awkward. Right, so what's the rest of the pack? Just random stuff. Hey Drew, hope you're doing well. Can I eat the lions? You know, the saddest part about that idea, Cole, is I like your enthusiasm, but there's a wall. That's you know, the saddest part is even if you wanted to, the game says no. Game says no. How did I suddenly take so much damage? I have to home gang this. I have a feeling that... I didn't actually have to. I had a feeling that when I ran in, I'd get tank busted. I really messed that one up. I should have run way sooner. Just eat the wall. Oh, you see, Silvermint. If this game had a higher age rating, it could have been something else. But here we are. The worst part is they don't even have enormous bodies. It's literally a head with arms and nothing else. It's just that they have, for some reason, like a giant circle. Like their targeting reticle is just really big. I don't quite understand what you mean, Drew. I'm pretty sure this is default settings. But maybe you've accidentally turned it off or something. I might be able to check quickly where I think it might be after this fight. Did one of the mobs just try to walk around the ledge? It's fine, I'll just run under the ledge. Do it during hide and seek. Hey, maybe I'll do it while I run to the boss. Yep, Neranos has you covered, Drew. Character configuration, UI settings, and then HUD. There should be something there. Thank you, Nera. Joel says, why do they put walls in front of bosses? When did they start? When did that start? I know AR doesn't have it. I think they started being like more consistent with dungeon layout like that, like around Stormblood? Maybe Shadowbringers, actually. The reasoning, I think, is actually the same reason as a lot of other things. A case of you can't handle this freedom. And by that I mean, you know now that the way we go about pulling in dungeons is literally pull everything. Or at least some people do. That's the key here. Some people do. Some people also like to take it a little bit safer, right? And the thing is, the people that want to go a little safer, whether that's I only want to pull one pack, which is maybe a little overprotective, and the ones going I only pull 2 packs at a time, never full wall to wall. Those have a tendency to have some disagreements with the ones who want to actually pull everything. And if you could pull everything, including the boss, then there would be a part of the player base that would go, so that's what you do. As in, what are you doing? Why are you not pulling those 5 packs in Stone Vigil into the boss room? Which, fortunately, has not become the norm. Because a lot of players are simply not, like, a lot of randomly put together groups simply can't do that. So, in a way, they're limiting how much you get to pull so that these kinds of disagreements just don't exist. Yep, here it is, here it is, Drew. It's the flying text and pop-up text. I'm not sure which is which. Yeah, indeed, Nera. It is actually really fun if, like, you have a really, really strong group to, like, actually pull everything in, like, A Realm Reborn dungeons. But I do think that it is very likely that the origin of them no longer allowing it is that some players just couldn't handle that power in a polite way. And by that power, I of course mean the power to pull everything. Streamer minigame night, call that Kai and Seek. Yeah, exactly, Traverse. You do see, like, it's not always the case, but there are sometimes, like, disagreements, because some players believe that anyone should be able to do the big mega wall-to-wall pulls. And then it doesn't matter. Like, for some of them, it doesn't matter that you're a sprout. They don't care. You pull like the big boys. Everyone can do it. It's easy, Lamau, right? It's really not. It's just that if you've played an MMO like Final Fantasy XIV for years, it feels like it's easy. Warcraft Traveler also mentions that, yeah, the bosses have gained complexity. Absolutely. Like, wait, that's the exact same configuration. Are you serious, Lisa? Right, I'll run in the exact same pattern and then run to the same pile. She'll never suspect a thing. Why? Oh! Oops. Is that Pachythanamos? There's that part where you can pull 2 packs and then there's a dragon behind a rock. And when it has broken the rock, you can continue forward and pull more. It's kind of funny that people get mad about that, because as far as I know, that's almost like a party trick. Like, there's so many people that... Are you kidding me? Are you for real right now, Lizza? Are you bugged? Something wrong? Are you good? Never suspected it 3 times in a row. That'll get him. Ah, but you see, they'll never suspect I'll do it 4 times in a row. Hey, David John. Hope you're doing well. And exactly, that's the point. Is that... And this is something that I've talked about a lot, is that once you've played a game like Final Fantasy XIV for a while, or you've played a game similar to Final Fantasy XIV for a while, it can be very easy to... Oh, he actually did something different. And it can be very easy to forget that it was hard at some point. Like, one way I've described it is sometimes say, imagine if your mom, hypothetically, was going to play the game. Some people have mothers who literally play Final Fantasy XIV, so this of course doesn't apply to everyone. But imagine you'd have to, like, that you were teaching one of your parents to play the game. They would probably have a much, like the average parent of a grown-up adult old enough to play Final Fantasy XIV might have a much harder time learning the game. It's just that a lot of us have grown up with games, so a lot of these, like, things that the game assumes you know just make sense. So it's like, it's obvious that it's this that you're supposed to do. That's my dad wouldn't make it past the first quest. Yeah, there you go. And see, it's not meant as like as something negative about anyone. It's just to say that imagine someone that you know. Do you only have 2 patterns, Lisa? Someone that you know that would have a really hard time with the game, and just consider that you don't know who the other people are. Joel says my parents would think it was insanely boring. My parents would probably think that too. But it's more the principle that if you took someone who has no experience with a game like Final Fantasy XIV, or even like a game with the similar complexity to Final Fantasy XIV, they would take way longer to learn many of these things that some of us just take for granted that everyone would know. Nice, Zaf. Good to hear. At least you beat it. Uh-oh. I don't think my vengeance was up for that one. Oh my god! That's also true, Krakenmo. I suppose the logic there is that obviously if you can pull more, then pull more, right? It's faster if you if you grab more mobs if you can take it. Like that's like the given. But the reason why it can become a problem is like if you've never done a dungeon before or you don't feel very confident, then you might not think I can pull 3 or 4 or 5 packs or whatever. You wouldn't think that because you don't even know if you could pull 1. But the rest of your group is like, come on now, come on, let's not be too like, let's not laze around. We've done this 350 times. We know you can do it, so go, pull. Oh, he did the second pattern. Weird. Irid and Zav, were you in the same group? Are you both in EU? I know Zav is in EU. Irid, are you also in EU? Can't remember. Now that's an interesting kind of irony. That you're like that she specifically said that you'd never make it sitting in front of a computer all day. Like, just you watch. Just you wait and see. Bonk. And yet somehow, I'm pretty sure we finished that boss at around the same time we finished the first boss in Vanaspati. Which suggests that either the trash was way easier here, or exactly, the boss had less HP to compensate for the fact that it's not there for so much time. And that was also what I was hoping, that I'm pretty sure, like I've never gone and checked, like literally, but I'm pretty sure that bosses that like leave the area and become untargetable have less HP. Like, so that they don't take abnormal amounts of time to beat. Dun 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 dun. Oh. Weird. Really, really weird. They charge up a cast, and then they go and they go like, haha, take my tank buster! Yeah. Exactly like the limitless blue. You spend so much time just basically being forced to sit and do the mechanics. So to compensate, the boss has less HP. Get busted, nerd! Like this! Ah! I don't know why I'm going with like a Skeletor voice for these snake guys, but I don't know why they like those snake boys so much. Like, if I recall correctly, the statues outside Pandemonium has like 3-headed versions. Like just all around the place, just 3-headed versions. And like the boss that comes later is just like basically the average palace guard, or what? I don't know. Tank busters! There's something strange that hits you really hard. What do you call it? A tank buster! Ow! Hey, Ogni! Hope you're doing well. Oh boy, let's run out here for a bit. Come on down. Let's hang out in the hallway. Just party in the hallway. I have the Ghostbusters theme stuck in my head. You're welcome. Nodal says, this is Hermes' dungeon and Hermes' staff. The Caduceus has serpents intertwined. That's true. Still, how does that relate to the Pandemonium thing? Yeah, I agree, Amoose. I think genuinely that it would not surprise me come Endwalker if either one is possible. But I believe that either they might nerf Warrior self-sustain a little bit, because it's a little crazy right now. Or it wouldn't surprise me if they buff the other tanks to make it more even. There's also, of course, always the possibility that they don't do anything. Sorry, did I say... well, I meant when we get to Dawn Trail, if I said Endwalker. You know what I mean? That it wouldn't surprise me if they, even things out a bit. It would also, in fairness, not surprise me if they don't do anything about it, because this complete imbalance of self-sustain among the tanks is only exclusively a problem in dungeons. In all other content, it doesn't really matter. It's not really that bad. Bustin' makes me feel good. Getting tank busted. Hopefully not. That's the enemy doing the tank buster. That says that, I suppose. Yeah, exactly, Zaf. In context, that gets a little weird, doesn't it? I also think that it would be nice if Paladin got something earlier. I think I suggested on a stream a while back that it would be nice if Paladin got something like Holy Spirit at lower level, and then it just, upgraded to, also have the Divine Might interaction when you get Royal Authority. And then, I don't know, maybe then you get actual Holy Spirit with the extra potency at level 64. I don't know. But it would be nice if you had a spell as a Paladin before, level 58. But the thing is, originally, you had Flash at, level 4. And then they removed Flash. But then, when you became a Paladin, you could cross-class into Conjurer, so you technically had spells. Ajibasa says, why can I not clip while live? You should be able to clip while live. I'm pretty sure I've seen people do it. What was Flash? Flash was a... So it cost MP to use. What it did was, in a circle around you, it applied blind to everyone, like all enemies, and also applied a fixed amount of enmity, like a little bit how Provoke works now, in that it just like generates enmity as a hypothetical amount compared to like potency. But it basically was just AoE enmity. And it was enough enmity that sometimes it was a genuine strategy to just spam Flash for a bit, like to just get aggro. And then the blind was also nice with the defensive value. Back when you had cross-class actions, warriors took it too, because it was really convenient that you could spend your MP for AoE enmity when you ran out of TP. Look at the Magicians, was Vanaspati possible? Oh yeah, it took 70 minutes. But yeah, back in like A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, Paladins could choose, like from the cross-class action list, they could choose some Conjurer spells. They could choose like Cure 1 and Protect, I believe. And they could also choose Stone Skin, which is like a barrier you could set up. They could also choose Raise, but the thing is that the ability to use Raise in combat was actually a trait that was learned specifically by Conjurers and, of course, Scholars, I believe. But that meant that even though the Paladin chose the Raise, they couldn't, you know, combat Raise anyone. That was exclusive to the healer itself. I guess maybe Arcanist learned it, so that both Summoner and Scholar got it, but you know what I mean. Nasty were the stack markers in there. On the second boss, we almost got killed by a stack marker. But then it turned out that only the second boss had a stack marker, and that was like the one thing it had going for it, so it wasn't too bad. The last boss did a lot of damage. If Paladin could raise with no swift cast, I'd be happy. That's actually an interesting point. When you have Requiescat up in variant dungeons, the variant raise you have actually doesn't have a cast time. But because it has like a 30-second cooldown, you can only, you know, raise one person with it anyway. But it's still kind of convenient, isn't it? Yeah. Unless this boss has like something really, really scary up its sleeve, it is going to be really easy. Because it wastes so much time on something that doesn't hurt me. In Criterion, you only have one charge anyway. Yeah, that's true. Dog aggro. What? It's when the dog demands it. I'd assume so. Welcome back, Emir. Am I winning? I don't think this boss has anything, so let's say I'm not losing. And then we can ask Laden Lord here whether he or she or it is winning. Maybe we have to ask each head individually. Well, that wasn't that bad. What do you mean, Guzzle? Do you mean for Conjurers? Ladon Lord? I don't know. Ladon Lord? Lad on Lord? Lad on Lord! Lavender Lord. Leighton Lord. Not a trait for Scholar, only Conjurer. Ah, okay. So you mean the, hvad hedder det? Now I'm speaking Danish apparently, hvad hedder det? What's it called? Scholar and Summoner gets combat res at level 22 in the old days. Lord of Latency. Latency Lord! I swore? What do you mean? I said, what is it? What swear did I say? Yeah, that makes sense, Gazel. That is probably the reason. Because Paladin could specifically have that one. Did I say that? I'm pretty sure I said, hvad hedder det? It's not a swear. How often do you speak Danish in your daily life? With a lot. It's just usually with, you know, Danish people. No, Ymir, the word that Coco wrote is a swear, but that's not what I said. What I said was, what is it called? Hvad hedder det? Yeah, thank you for checking, Gazel. That was something that would take a while to figure. Like that would be something that I wouldn't be able to figure out, at least without checking myself either. Oh boy, how much damage is this again? Oh, 27,000. I love it. Thank you. Please send me more of that. Latency Lord, Lavender Lord, Leighton Lord, Burger Lord or something. We are the Serpent Lords. We can do anything. Ow. Do you speak any other languages other than Danish and English? I don't, like, understand other languages super well other than Danish and English, but, I mean, I know some Japanese words. I know some French words. Oh. Here and there. And I do try my best to pronounce them right. I also know some German words. This is going to hurt a lot. No? Oh, weird. Thank you, Gazel. Yeah, I get what you mean, Cole. It is a little weird that they put them down and then, like, they show the telegraph a few seconds before they explode. It's kind of weird. I think the answer to that is that because it isn't a savage difficulty fight, they want to give you a chance to react. But that is, of course, completely undermined by the simple fact that there isn't a savage version. There's also the part that if you did this fight in a proper group, you would only see this fireball mechanic like twice. And maybe you wouldn't be that well acquainted with it yet by that point. If you'd only seen it twice. I do think it's really funny that those fireballs have the Bomberman pattern, though. I highly doubt that, Traverse, because there hasn't exactly been a savage version of a dungeon, like a regular dungeon. Like, I don't even have to say in a while. I can just say there has never been one. So it would be shocking if they had designed a boss with the intent that it could be made savage later. It's just that casual difficulty content have mechanics that look really, really, really easy if you see it from the perspective of like a savage raider, right? But it is once again a case of, I think, well, the target audience of this boss is literally everyone. So it doesn't, they don't want it to be too hard. It's challenging enough that if you don't respect it at all, it can kill you. Like, it absolutely has the capacity to kill you. If you just respect its mechanics and, you know, step out of the way, then it isn't very threatening. And I agree, Philippe. I would love some savage dungeons. And this is something we've actually talked about before as well, that the problem with Criterion dungeons is that they feel more like a 4-man raid than a savage difficulty dungeon. But yeah, I do agree, Cole, that this is a little silly. This particular boss is comically slow. Like, it's really, really taking its time setting up its mechanics to do the thing, which is kind of the reason why it doesn't really do very much. Like, when you do it with a proper group, it does like this mechanic 2 times, I think. And it does the fireball thing like 2 times, or if not just once. Like, it just barely manages to go, this is all of my mechanics, and then it's like, and now you can kill me. Like, you can't unsee that I did all of my mechanics, so take that, and it just drops. Flame Breath is usually 3 or 4, Fireballs is 2 or 3. Oh, fair enough.
I cannot let you take Meteor. Not yet.
Oh, cool. It's often a lot more challenging when you see the bosses in a full group that's never seen them. That's not to say that that boss was any danger. But for example, the first trial in Endwalker, genuinely, I did that one, like, I think, like, late day 1 of Endwalker. Like, actually day 1 of the expansion. And I joined as a replacement, and we didn't make it. Like, we actually ran out of time on normal in the first Endwalker trial. Then I went in again, and it took like another 30 minutes before we got it. And there's one particular mechanic that was causing so much trouble, and some of you might guess which one it is. And the reason is simply that people didn't know. Like, nowadays, people have all, like, most of the group has figured out how to do, like, optimized mechanics, and if half of your group knows what to do, then they can make sure the other half doesn't die. So I'm just saying that some of these bosses feel a lot easier than now, like, if you're doing it for the first time, because the rest of your group is probably not there for the first time. That's not to say that that trial was brutally difficult. It was like a specific thing we didn't get. The mechanic that was causing trouble was when he flies away from the arena and does the meteors. Some players didn't realize that they were supposed to do this and look out into the distance. So they just got hit. Other people weren't quite sure how, like, it translated down to the arena, so they got hit even though they could see it. That didn't wipe the group. The problem was that he does that, and then right after, he opens with the multi-stack marker. And if you have, like, half your raid dead, then you die. It's basically like a normal difficulty body check. No, yeah, there's also no echo, but of course, again, just repeating, it was on normal. And yeah, also minimum item level. There's no one in the group who's, like, getting synced down. No one has seen the fight before. Like, there's a lot of things that are difficult to observe in the normal version of stuff for the first time, simply because, like, once people have gotten past it, there is an extremely high chance that some players in the group can carry. And yeah, it's also really long now that you mention it, Joel. That's also the thing that makes it really funny for me, is that I've done that trial so many times. Not that many times, but enough times that I've noticed that if you use LB3 exactly when you get it, like if someone tries, like, ninja the LB3 and just use it as quickly as possible so they get to have it, that incidentally happens to coincide with a mechanic that has a tendency to catch half the raid off guard. He does that thing where he, like, I think he says something like, "Oh, how I've been waiting for this day," and then he, like, leans to the side, and then he cleaves across the entire room, and if you get hit, you get knocked off the arena and you die. And by that time in the fight, people have been fighting for so long that some people are like, you know, like, they're not keeping that, like, focusing that much anymore, maybe. And then you lose, like, 3 or 4 people. And then he does the multi-stack marker, and then you die. Which has the effect that usually the best you can do is try and convince people to just don't use the LB3. Just leave the just let the healers have it, just in case we need it. You know, just in case we need it. Because it's just, the time saved by the melee LB is just not worth it. Because the fight is so monstrously long. I usually don't instruct anyone in that way, but I always do get a little nervous when I see the melee DPS use the LB immediately, because I'm like, oh, well, I am guessing that in just a moment, 4 people will die. We're talking about the first trial in Endwalker, look at them at, and I'm specifically not naming it, just in case someone, like, is in the stream who has not seen that fight and don't want it spoiled. Like, I know we're, like, actually doing a fight that is after that, obviously, but, I mean, feels a little less spoilery, doesn't it? My flashy animation. Here we have the danger. But yeah, I do, like, if you want to see how difficult normal content can be, if you can, try and see if you can, like, if you can rush through the Dawn Trail expansion so that you, like, get to the content like, as quickly as possible so that you get groups with all first-timers. That's when it gets wild. Hey, Brobert. Yeah, we already did Vanaspati and then we moved on to Caetsu. We did beat Vanaspati, though. Yeah, that's true. Look at the magic. It's actually it's the same it's the same spell. But yeah, if you can do got to get a good Dawn Trail MSQ static. No, actually, that's what you shouldn't do. You should specifically, like, day 1 of Dawn Trail, just, like, as soon as you can get on, like, I'm sure some of you just, like, will have to, like, wait until you get home from work. Some people will, you know, book time off for that. We're all different. But as soon as you can, go for it. You don't have to, like, mash through cutscenes. Don't worry about that. But, like, if, like, let's say the game, like, the expansion releases on a Friday. If you can, you know, work through it over the weekend, then you will almost certainly be, like, in the forefront if you don't, like, get too distracted. And if you're in the forefront of the people, like, clearing it, then you will almost certainly go into groups with, like, 7 first-timers. And the reason why I say don't get an MSQ static is specifically because part of the difficulty comes from 7 randos that have no idea what they're doing. Like, if I was in a static for that first trial, it would have been over. Like, I don't think we would have wiped multiple times. Traverse says, part of me wants to play Dawn Trail day 1, but the skeptic gamer is saying wait a few weeks or months for the balance and bug fix patches to be applied. Well, in that case, I can tell you, Traverse, that unlike other MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV's expansions release in good quality. And there's no need to wait. The worst that can happen is things like Rauban Extreme, but that is years ago. I don't believe there was such a thing in Endwalker, and if there was, I didn't see it. For those that don't know what that is in Stormblood, there's this quest in the Fringes, a solo duty that starts with Rauban. And there was a bug that meant that basically only a few people, if not just one person, could go at a time. Which caused quite a bottleneck. I didn't see it myself though, because when that was a problem, I'm pretty sure I was in a Realm Reborn content. And that is true, Cal. There were some login issues, but there's a lot of things that had to happen for that to go wrong. By which I mean, they were trying to upgrade the servers, but they couldn't because of, you know, we had this worldwide tour of a virus. You might have heard of it. So they couldn't make sure to, like, they wanted to make sure they inspected the servers personally, so they couldn't do any upgrades. And leading up to Endwalker, there was the massive influx of WoW players fleeing from World of Warcraft that also inflated the amount of players. So that, like, it was way more than they had anticipated. So there's, like, a lot of things that just went wrong in that particular case. This time around, I think that it'll be better. Is all I'm saying. I think it'll be fine this time. Of WoW players. That tour hasn't ended yet, annoyingly. Well, I guess it never ends. It just gets less problematic. Yeah, I do agree there, Amy. I do feel like, Cole, you're maybe being a little too cynical there. Like, there has been one raid tier after Abyssus. So basically you're going, well, they undertuned the next raid tier after the one that was somewhat overtuned, so therefore they'll never do that. Like, they'll never do anything but undertune for the rest of eternity. You do see how that's maybe a bit of a leap, right? And I don't know if it is outright undertuned. I do believe people found P12S challenging. But if you did P12S months after its original release, it will of course feel easier because people have better gear. And that's just because Savage raids in Final Fantasy XIV are typically balanced to be doable in, like, week 1. There's also Harrowing Hell, yeah. I'm just saying anything is possible. And I think it's maybe a bit too pessimistic to assume that because they undertuned from your perspective a raid tier a little bit, that they'll never make it harder than that again. Yeah, I know about that, Cole. It's just that they specifically overtuned as a result of that in the second raid tier. Who knows? Maybe they're trying to figure out how to, like, make it right this time. Either way, they've had one raid tier to try whatever it is they're doing now. One. So I don't think it's very fair for you to go, they'll keep doing this. Like, they've had one chance. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the Alo Island Criterion dungeons came out after that. Yeah, they did. Those are really challenging, right? That's of course not a Savage raid, but that's also difficult content. What do you think life would be like if we never pushed Hermes? There's a possibility that he would have had the chance to talk with Meteon and maybe alleviate the issue. Who knows? Hey, Brontom. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm not saying, Cole, that it isn't possible that the next raid tier will be really, really easy or something. But I do think making that assumption based on data amounting to one sample is maybe a little pessimistic. That's all I'm saying. Like, don't take the potential sadness ahead of schedule. Wait and see. Maybe it'll be great. It is possible that if we had let him talk, he would have just done the same thing.
Stars on high.
Fall as rain. Are you already looping, buddy? It's the looping man. The looping man. Have you tried soloing any Endwalker trials as warrior? I have not. Partly because I don't think... I don't know if it's possible at all. I'm pretty sure that the first Endwalker trial is impossible. I haven't tested. But I'm reasonably sure it cannot be done. Simply because... the typical problem is either a DPS check. There is no such thing in the first Endwalker trial. Or stack markers. There's a multi-stack marker. And I'm pretty sure with 8 players it'll hit too hard.
Streams of ether. Surge is one.
So I just don't think it's super possible. It might be possible if we could do it unsynced, but we can't. Like, it's not even an option. Oh, that's what you meant, cool. You know, that makes a lot more sense. I thought you meant it as it'll it'll never be like difficult and interesting again. Like that was the impression that I got. But yeah, that makes a lot more sense. That and I do agree with that. Is that Final Fantasy XIV is incredibly well balanced. So there should be no need for, was it Traverse? Who felt compelled to, like, hold off for a bit. There's also the part that, the only difference in waiting with buying Dawn Trail a few months is that, 1, you lose out on the pre-order earring, and 2, you will still be playing the game, you will just not have access to the Dawn Trail content. Don't normal trials still have enrages to contend with? Nope. They have a hard enrage, which is this thing over here. The timer. But that's it. If you can survive, even normal trial bosses will eventually start looping. There can be exceptions, like specific bosses that have some sort of enrage in some capacity. But the general standard is they don't. They'll just loop mechanics if they run out of things to throw at you. And yeah, there can be DPS checks, but there is usually not a there isn't necessarily a hard enrage, which was what I thought Lucata Magi meant. But you're right. The second... Well, actually... If we just look at it from, like... Actually, if we start checking from Heavensward and beyond, Bismarck has a DPS check. If you take, I think it's over 2 minutes to kill the 2 serpent ads, you know, the green and the blue one, you just wipe. Like, it just kills you. And similarly, Susano has his sword slam. And in Shadowbringers, Titania and Innocence both have a DPS check. Exactly, Zab. What happens if you don't kill the serpents in time, at some point the 2 serpents will disappear. It goes dark, like as in it's like a cloud flies over the sun, and then you just stand there for a little bit, and then if I remember correctly, the screen just fades to black, and then fades to the wipe animation. Like, it just shows what happens when the island is destroyed. I think just before that, Bismarck also just does like 99% damage to the island anyway. But yeah, normal trials have DPS checks sometimes, but they never have hard enrages. Never. But they can have DPS checks.
Stars on high. All is rain.
You know, the weirdest part about that cutscene era is, if I remember correctly, what you see is a Bismarck coming down, like, over you, like, nom, like, flying at you. And then the screen cuts to your character, like, standing on the island, being like, oof, duty failed style. And then you, of course, go back to spawn again. I'll just eat Bismarck first. Will Shinryu drop all the platforms? I believe the center platform in Phase 2 is unbreakable. But he might just kill you if you're stuck on that one. Yeah, that is actually also the reason why I know that particular quirk about Bismarck, is because when I made that, I mentioned this video earlier in this stream when we were talking about Wrath. That one of the hard walls in soloing Final Fantasy XIV from the very start, even with trusts to help you, which was the test that I did, just to be like, what if everyone quit the game? Could you still complete it? But trials with no trust help or duty support help. Then you would still have to do things like Bismarck solo, because you can't bring duty support there. And it turned out, even unsynced, that it was even if you could power level to 90 with warrior, if you only used appropriate, like level appropriate gear you could feasibly have at that level, you wouldn't be able to do it. I think I needed to bring out like Reaper, because they had, you know, slightly better gear by default. And then it was possible, just barely, because you could nuke down one of the ads far enough that it wasn't a problem. I mean, you can get Venture Gear, which Wrath doesn't do. Well, the thing is, if you're doing Bismarck, right? If you're doing Bismarck, and you're like making the suggestion that, well, what if there were no other players and you were playing through the game, then the best gear you could get would be like crafted gear you can craft. Thank you, Erdo. And I think I used like slightly better gear than that. You wouldn't be able to get Idleshire gear at that point, because the Idleshire gear would be, you know, stuck in Idleshire, which you haven't reached by Bismarck. So it's complicated. But it was possible. I believe the real true wall that I ran into was... The first one was obviously you can't do the Crystal Tower alone. Like, you literally can't. You can't enter. But if we ignore that part, then the second wall that is actually insurmountable is Susano. That is the thing. That is the boss you cannot do even unsynced. Even in like full 660 gear, you can't do it. I meant that you can get Endwalker Hunt gear through 1 hour ventures. Oh. That is an interesting point. I hadn't actually considered that. Yeah, exactly, Ham. The reason Susano is impossible, even on normal, to solo even unsynced, is because you can't both attack the blade and block the blade simultaneously. Or block the blade. And that, of course, leads to the suggestion that can't you just kill him past the point, like skip the intermission? You could, but if he drops below 50%, I believe, I detailed my observations in the video itself more, but I believe the observations I made was something like, if he drops below 50%, I think it was 50%, then he will finish whatever he's doing, and then he'll go to the intermission and, you know, become untargetable, and then Blade happens. If he drops below, I think it was like 40% or 37%, something like that, then he will cancel out of whatever he's doing. Like, he will just step out of the mechanic. And like do the sword thing anyway, or the blade thing anyway, and then you die. Also, 70 minutes to spare again. Incredible. So the options there is you would need to one-shot him from around 40%, which is possible. I'm pretty sure it was Matthew J. who did it with a Blue Mage, which is important because it turns out that if you beat something with Blue Mage that is related to a non-Blue Mage quest, then it doesn't count. Like, then it doesn't progress your MSQ. So it wouldn't count. You wouldn't be able to proceed. Which of course means that the only other option, which I also presented and suggested in the video, was maybe Doton could do it, or Salted Earth. The answer to that is Salted Earth wouldn't work, because you have to beat the blade twice. And you only get Salted Earth once. And the blade doesn't become targetable until like 3 or 4 seconds after you start blocking it. So whatever you do, you will lose 1 or 2 ticks. And also the initial placement damage of the circle AoE that you put down. Which would mean that Salted Earth loses like 30 or 40% of its damage. Doton used to be better at this. Like, it used to last 24 seconds. But now it only lasts 18. But specifically because you need to do it twice, it has to be Ninja. Because it's the only one who can place down a circle AoE twice. But if I remember correctly, when I tested it, so I tested it with Dark Knight Hard Slashes, and it's a long time ago. Gotten a lot better at, you know, like I've learned a lot about the more hidden away mechanics of the game. I believe I needed, like, unsynced, I needed like 6 Hard Slashes to break it. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat, Emir. You do not pass go. You do not collect 200 money. Oh. Well then. I guess I'll just have to place myself at Park Place and pay the hotel fee. But yeah, Cole says, how about Esteem? Esteem will not, if I remember correctly, he will not attack anything that you haven't attacked yourself. Even if you're in combat with it. He will not attack something that you haven't attacked yourself. He might by accident because of some AoE damage, but he will not outright swing at something without you doing so first. So if you summon Esteem and then block the blade, then Esteem will just kind of like stand there next to you like, "No, what's up, bro? What's going on?" And then you die. But yeah, you would need to do it twice. That is the big deal breaker there. And because you would need like 5 or 6 heart slashes worth of potency, well, that was of course a raid tier ago, but it would still be like 5. You would still need like 2 full salted earths to break, to beat the blade once. Which is obviously not enough, right? Because you get less than 1 because of how the mechanic is structured. It is possible that we get such a gigantic power boost with Dawn Trail and like the echo bonus that might increase, that it becomes possible. Salted Earth before Blade drops, triggering a steam. Well, then, Archibuster, then we're back to problem 1. You need to do it twice. Because he does the, you know, the big blade, ka, slam down once, and you parry it, and then you have to break it, like, beat the blade back, and then he does the woo, up again, and then down again. And then you have to block it again, and beat it back again. So you can't use Salted Earth and the Steam in the same go. It has to be 2 separate goes, otherwise you will just die the second time. That is again why it circles back to it has to be ninja. Because you have to beat it back twice. But I suppose if you did, well, we can possibly test this, right? What's up? How you doing? Pretty cool, isn't it? Wow, we look cool with our big swords. Your sword is bigger than mine. Right? Cool mean, yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't work. But that is exactly the reason why I'm like, you can't beat Susano solo. Like, you literally, there's no way with a normal job. Because a normal job... Steam is fired. No normal job can actually beat Susano normal, unsynced, solo. There's no way. So that's like, that's the roadblock. No way, at least not yet. And I think, based on the amount of damage you need, that there is a reasonable chance, there's a chance that ultimately, when we finally can beat Susano normal, that the strategy that will work is that some job, I don't know, samurai or something, just walks up to him and just goes, Okinamikiri, and just kills him from 40%, just snipes him through it. That will probably be the easier way to do it, and the one that will more likely work, I think. Yimia says, I know what you should do for 100,000 subs. That'll be in a long time from now, it feels like. Make a Final Fantasy 11 account? That would be interesting. That would be interesting. Who knows? Maybe we would do that before that. There's many possibilities for what we could do. I was actually looking into, there was this thing I had thought about doing a while back. Trying to beat Stranger of Paradise only using magic. It's absolutely possible, but recently the game keeps crashing for me, which would be a very, very dreadful viewing experience. Just watching me like, start the game again, sit through the opening of the game, get into the save, retrace my steps, and then hope it doesn't crash again. So I have to figure something out there. But it is possible. One way a samurai could cut Susano like in coils. Yeah. Exactly. I imagine it would be something like maybe a samurai one-shotting with Oginamikiri. maybe a machinist just going, you know, reassemble drill. Something like that is probably what's going to work. The funniest part about it is that when Samurai reaches that power level, Samurai also simultaneously reaches the power level where it might actually be hard to set up your damage buff without the boss immediately phasing. What does Samurai one-shot in coils? I don't know if they one-shot it, but I do recall back in Shadowbringers, the easiest way to beat this fight. Who's it against again? Nail des Darnes. Was that Samurai could like set up, build resources, and like set up a buff, prepare Midare Setogeka, and then when the boss starts a specific mechanic that takes a little bit, Samurai could just, you know, blah 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 blah, and kill the boss before they finish that mechanic. That is exactly that is how Samurai would beat Susanoo as well. That is actually the reason why it is important that I mentioned that Susanoo not only, you know, has a HP percentage where he goes, oh, next thing up is me doing the sword thing, but he also has like a hard cutoff where he just goes, like, he just drops what he's doing and just moves. Like, the weirdest part with that is that he stops doing the mechanic that he's doing, but the mechanic continues. So you can have like those like lightning clouds and stuff still happening, or like a knockback about to happen, and that might happen anyway. But Susanoo is already checked. He just peaced out and just, I'm going to get big now. I'm wild and pure and forever free, don't you know? And just does that thing. And because he has such a hard cutoff, you wouldn't be able to do this trick. You would literally have to one-shot him before he does that, which is a way bigger ask. Like, Samurai can hit hard, but not that hard. Not yet. But the reason why I say Oginami here is because it's a guaranteed crit and has high potency. It would be reliable. Another option that would probably present itself sooner would actually be Ninja. Because Hyosho Ranryu, you just have to, like, you know, pray it's a crit or something, and then it might work. And then if it doesn't, you can put down the Doton and hope that works. Like, that's also an option. So, like, Ninja might be the one for Susanoo when it ever becomes possible, because you can just do Hyosho Ranryu to try and one-shot him, and if it doesn't work, then you have the Doton backup. You should play Final Fantasy 3. Well, maybe one day. Dragon Mo saying Susanoo's heard about his sword bro getting turned into a macro and said it's not happening to him. Not for me. I refuse. I will not fail my brother in glorious combat. I'll teach these warriors of light how a real fight works. And then you just bring a friend, and you just, with your powers combined, you beat him really easily. But it is really funny how a fight like that just sustains as too hard to solo as a result. Because something that is worth mentioning is that I don't know how it looks now. But when Matthew J beat Susanoo on normal with Blue Mage, if I recall correctly, they had to go in and, you know, build Echo by wiping a bunch of times. And then they had to pull again, and then, you know, one shot from the HP threshold with a critical directed final sting. So not only had you had to do like 30 minutes of prep work of wiping intentionally, then you had to fish for a lucky direct crit. And then you could one-shot it. But otherwise, no. Not possible yet. Also, was it Luca the Magi that mentioned Aishia Scope and Dead Ends? They will be very interesting. I think we'll have to continue forward next time, because these will also take 70 minutes. Like, it'll just be way long. But we still haven't reached the point where I can't make it. So that's good. Among those... the only fight left among the remaining Endwalker dungeons that is probably not possible, like just flat out not possible, I think is Lapis Manalis. There's a DPS check and it's way too tight. There's also a DPS check in Fell Court of Troya, but I don't know if it's too tight. And the reason why Lapis Manalis is too tight is because it's 4 single target mobs you have to deal with. Takes too long. Fell Court of Troya, it's a big blob of mobs. If you can kill them fast enough, like if you can cleave them, it's fine. I don't know if a single person can, but if you can, then that's it. Okay, the Magi says Lapis DPS check is doable with 2 people at least. It was tight, but I managed. Yeah, if you need 2 people to just barely make it, then 1 person isn't going to do it. Thank you, Gazel. I am shocked at how it gets this wild. The first boss. Oh yeah, the first boss in Fell Court of Troya also has a DPS check. Or... yeah, that's the question. I have to ask, has anyone seen the first boss in Fell Court of Troya actually, like, the big head that spawns at the end and channels a spell? Has anyone seen it explode or, do whatever it is that it does when it finishes? Has anyone seen that? What happens? Does he turn into fireworks? Because I've never seen it. Time to go in and find out. I mean, that would be something interesting to do one day, because we'd still need like a full pre-made. Just go in and just let him do it. But the thing is, the way that I've gone about this, the thing is, the main motivation to check that is it's interesting, right? What would happen? But from the solo duty standpoint, or solo challenge standpoint, I go in with the assumption that maybe we can beat the dungeon, and I'll just push until we get stopped. This is NPCs. There's a possibility the NPCs can beat the DPS check on their own. But yeah, that's what I usually do, is that I just go in. Like, we have had situations where it's like, I mean, Warrior can solo the area, I'm pretty sure, except there's one thing it can't do. Incidentally, it couldn't solo the area because there was that one thing. That one thing. But if we have people, we could go and test. We could go and check if it works, but I don't think I have 4. People are queuing for stuff. Because there we would actually need to bring the people to, like, get in there. You mean Nidhogg stealing Galamede's grab from Dark Souls 1? I don't know what Galamede's grab is. But it sounds very deadly. But that is funny. Here's the reason why I'm interested in what happens in that mechanic. Is because part of the reason why I take these like dungeons where I'm like, well, there is a DPS check, and I'm pretty sure I can't make the DPS check. Is because sometimes the DPS check is actually doable by a lone warrior. Which we discovered, for example, in Alamigo. And sometimes there is a DPS check, but for some reason it doesn't kill you if you fail it, like in Hell's Lit. When it says to get the head load to see if it does damage based on missing HP. That is a good point. Well, if people want to test it, we could round up some people. I do see Gazel and Sid is queuing for something. Don't hop out of your queue. It's fine. Unless you specifically want to be there. Emia's almost there. Okay. Does Coco want to be in the group for it? It's the question. No, Emia, I'll wait for you. Don't worry, I'll wait for you. Do we have a player 4? Assuming Coco wants to come along for this weird test. Let me repeat, Coco. What we're trying to figure out is what actually happens if the first boss in Fell Court of Troya is allowed to finish its cast. Oh, we also have Aradel. In that case, we can take Aradel and Dimir. That works, right? Right, so I'm just double checking. Hey Cyanide, hope you're doing well. Just to reiterate, what we're doing is we go into the dungeon, reach the first boss, do the boss normally, and then when the big head appears, we smash it down to like, I don't know, like 20% HP. Like around 20%. Just in case. Oh, sorry, Giraheen. I do appreciate the help anyway. Sorry. But around 20%. Just in case, as Cole suggested, maybe it does damage based on missing health. So it is nice to know. Giraheen is still here. And yeah, also try on that. I'll probably just face plant on all the defensive cooldowns. Have you still arrived, Giraheen? Aradil said that let you have the spot. Traverses, are you trying a Ichioscope next? We'll probably have to do Ichioscope next time. It's already like with these solo duties, these solo challenges taking like 17 minutes. It'll suddenly be late. I think. So instead, right now we're trying some funnies. We're talking about which dungeons might be impossible in the solo challenge of the remaining Endwalker dungeons, and and our eyes fall on Fell Court of Troy and Lapis Manalis. And I specifically said I think the DPS check on the final boss in Fell Court of Troy might be possible. And then the question becomes, but wait, has anyone seen the head, the first boss, actually finish its DPS check? So that's what we're going to try and find out. Why didn't you just teleport to my house? And that is Giraheen. I'll probably stop to give a briefing when we get to the first boss. We would just go clear the dungeon normally, and then when we get to the first boss, we get weird with it. It is funny, Traverse, because a lot of DPS checks in normal dungeons don't feel like DPS checks, specifically because it's usually very easy. Like, if you have a group that just kinda knows what they're doing, then the DPS checks usually don't go over like 50%. Like, it's not even close. That's also a very good point, girl. What I think is funny with like this dungeon in general is that I feel like the trash packs has like a lot, especially in the first part. The trash packs and the boss has so many mobs that can die that Reapers can feel like you just can't run out. Right, so just reiterating, we do the boss normally, but when the big head spawns at the end, we attack it until, like, I don't know, like 40, 50% or so, maybe 30%. Like, when it drops below 50%, it's like slow down your damage and then stop at 20%. And then just kind of let him do what he's gonna do. And let's see what happens. Maybe it turns into fireworks. Maybe it just dies. That's the game plan. And then we'll see. Then we'll finally know what happens if you fail the Evil Dreamer DPS check, which exists. It would be extra funny if it turns out that it doesn't even kill you. is weird with these kinds of bosses. For some reason, with this boss, it didn't feel like it it gets a little like, okay, we get it. Like now the mechanic is like, oh, like it just barely reaches the point where it's like, okay, are we done? But it's still like it keeps adding something, so it doesn't like completely stale. But it reminds me of was it Hullbreaker Isle Hard, where the first boss is basically just 3 mobs. You kill them. 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 And you're just sitting there like, how many mobs are there? I'm doing something wrong. Right. So to 50%. And then you slow down. And then to 30%. Okay. There we go. Whew! That was close, huh? Oh, 2 of them. Yeah, I know him, yeah. It's fine. It didn't have to be specifically 30%. It was just, it had to be enough that the boss doesn't die. I was expecting like 3 heads that just exploded extra big. Well, good luck to you guys. Wow. Wow. Ow. How many 9s was that? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 9s. Now again, to see if an invuln would work. I used Holmgang. It killed me through the invuln. Yeah, Jibos, so the reason why I didn't do a clean full 9s is because I had a barrier. I checked on everyone else. That took a stupidly long time to cast. But yeah, I agree. That it might be doable. I mean, we if you want, I can go check. Like we could try now just to see that whether there's any point in trying Fell Call of Troya. But I could also go later. Go on solo it. I'll try. I'll give it a try. Well, I'll use my extra, my very big boy potions then. Yeah, it would probably make the most sense if you leave the dungeon so I don't get the party bonus if you want to see me try. It would probably make the most sense. You know, the weirdest part is that the goal is that it's one of those bosses where it explodes, and then just in case you didn't die, it exploded again. I don't know if you noticed, but it actually started the animation and the explosion happened a second time and everything. Like, it one-shotted us like 90 times over and was like, I'll do it again, just in case. Right, so there's a few interesting things to see with this fight. The first thing being, what if you take a really long time to clear pack? Does the boss send the next wave early? I'm just saying, I'll do this boss to see if we can do it. But I don't think... I think it makes more sense to come back to it and do the whole dungeon like at once, including the trash leading up to this at a later point. But it is nice to know whether this is even possible in the first place. Yeah, I mean, they've future-proofed the fight. What if you can't make the DPS check, but somehow you can survive taking 10 million damage? You know, just in case. Just in case, for some reason, our power inflates defensively to such a degree. They future-proofed the fight. You know, just in case. Just in case. Indeed, it's unique damage, which means that the only way to like overcome it is with barriers and more max health. It ignores mitigation completely. So to survive that hit, you would actually need 10 million HP. And yeah, I agree, Cole. It's really weird that it was like the boss just went, oh, I don't really have anything else. Like, I genuinely, the way that the mechanic played out, I would have expected. I was expecting that after like he summons 3 hits, uses 3 more hits to empower one of the explosions. It makes sense that he would then he expands to 3 hits where he empowers 2 of them, and then I would expect, like, if his own explosion is a one-shot anyway, then they could have had it so that, you know, 3 more heads spawn and all 3 of them gets empowered, and they happen to overlap with his own explosion, so that, like, he, like, double insta-kills you, like, everything just destroys you. Like, it makes no difference, but it would make, like, thematically it would have made sense that he just added that. But then instead, there's just nothing. Right, so here, I should... well, first of all, I should stockpile resources. But I should also save my offensive cooldown to the best of my ability. So that I have everything for the DPS check. Oh boy. Well, at least I don't have to sit and sandbag for too long, because all of my cooldowns are basically ready already. Oh, that is actually really awkward, this. I kind of delayed a GCD there to dodge it, but I don't think it matters. This isn't going to happen. 36%. I might have been able to make it to 35%. Like, maybe I could have reached like 35 or 34%, but yeah, that's not happening. That is not happening. You need an extra person. You need an extra person worth of damage. I mean, that's good to know. Now we know that's not possible. Just crit forehead. See, the weird thing is that because of how extremely front-loaded Warrior's damage is in this context, the instant that, like, so I have my, you know, a Fell Cleave, Upheaval, Infuriate, Inner Chaos, Infuriate, Inner Release, and then there's another Inner Chaos, the Fell Cleaves, and the Primal Rend. Once all that is done, there's like one more Inner Chaos and like one more Fell Cleave, maybe two more Fell Cleaves, but that's it. Then it's just filler. Like, if the thing isn't dead when Inner Release ends, then it has to be dead in like 4 GCDs, or I'm out. Like, I don't have anything else. It's pretty funny, because this is actually an aspect that I've messed around with quite a bit, because I like to practice on Stone Sky Sea. You know, the Stone Sky Sea dummies. And for tanks especially, you can really feel how they're really like burst-centric, especially anything that isn't a Dark Knight. Because the instant that like your last Inner Release has been spent in the on the striking dummy, you're already like running on fumes. You're like, all right, can I make it to another Infuriate? Is like, should I even refresh Storm's Eye at this point? Because maybe I can get an extra Fell Cleave in time and things like that. Like, there's, if it's not then it's just not happening. Also, hey Gleaming, hope you're doing well. Yeah, we are working through Endwalker. We were in Fell Court of Troya to check something. But we just beat Caetsu's Hyperborea, which wasn't... It wasn't... I feel like both Vanaspati and Caetsu's they weren't hard. Like, they were, of course, a solo challenge, but they were... I would say they were way easier than Tower of Zot. Here it says, is this boss damage heavy? Would it be possible in DPS? The rest of the dungeon will kill you. I had to use Bloodwetting. I had to use Bloodwetting. So DPS wouldn't be able to do it alone. So yeah, it's... Yeah. That's also the reason why every time that we talk about could a different job do it, it's like, well, no, a different tank would be missing Bloodwetting. A DPS would have the damage to do it, probably. But it would be missing the self-sustain. So, no. There's also the part that Warrior, if you set up all that, like prep all the damage like I did, then Warrior will actually be able to do a pretty respectable burst. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, I do feel like it was a little bit of a disappointment that that there was nothing else after the second explosion there. And that's actually even sadder, because I do remember having a group one time that did so little damage that I did see the second set, like the second wave spawn, and I think I saw them explode, but then the boss died. So like, I almost got to experience that there is nothing left after the second explosion. And it's just sad. Because there's no reason for there to not be one. It just feels weirdly asymmetric in a way. But yeah, I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. We were also already synced down because Fell Court of Troy is old content. So it's not that, oh, what if you just had like better gear in Dawn Trail so you get synced down more strong, more powerful? Maybe. But not like do 50% more damage more powerful. And the reason why I say 50% is of course because I did 66% of the damage. 64%. I would have to do 100%, of course, so I'd have to do 50% more than I did. relatively speaking. It was actually the same thing that prevented us from doing Dawn Mech. Was that this dungeon has a Harden Rage. And for anyone that didn't see it, you're welcome to guess what the Harden Rage is, if you like. I'll also give it a moment, then I'll tell you. The tree growing, correct. Basically, every time the second boss calls down fodder, there will be one of them per person and one for himself. It's very, very, very reasonable. He gives everyone a share. Like, he gives you lunch, gives himself lunch, and then he's like, how about second lunch? And how about third lunch? And how about fourth lunch? And he just keeps going until he becomes real big. And when he does become real big, he doesn't one-shot you. But if I remember correctly, his attacks hit, like, per swing, hits for, like, over 100% of a synced warrior's HP. Per swing. So, like, you can stay up for, like, 10 extra seconds by using Holmgang. Because he'll just keep swiping at you until you die. There's nothing you can do about it. And I believe my best try, I believe I got him to like 25%. Limit cut. Alright, Emir. Thank you for helping, by the way. Thank you for coming. But yeah, that meant that it was actually not possible to beat it with a normal job. And again, the question was, what if you brought a DPS? And then, of course, the counter to that is, well, the DPS can't beat the first boss, let alone the trash leading up to the first boss. And it would also die to the second boss. A particular grievance I had, or problem I had, was that I needed my hyper potions. I needed potions to stay afloat because that tree hits, like, really hard. So it was just not possible. But Blue Mage could do it. Very easily. But yeah, that does mean, I suppose, that we can cross Fell Court of Troya from the list. That is one we will not be doing. Because I can't do it. Like, we just tried. Like, I mean, the trash packs, obviously, we could do. Those actually didn't hurt that much. But that does mean we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and potentially 8 dungeons left. And why the reason I say potentially is because Lapis Manalis also has a DPS check. But that one is on the final boss. So that one takes a little bit longer to check. But yeah, I was hoping that that Vanaspati and Caetsu took a little bit less time, but they did take 70 minutes each. So with the fact that we, you know, also talk and don't just speedrun, by the time it would have been time for Dungeon 3, I felt it was already a little late. And now I feel like it's very too late to do another dungeon, because it'll take 70 minutes. Stigma Dreamscape will be cool. Yeah. The first boss has the circle knockback stack marker, which specifically doesn't knock back the person in the center. That's going to hurt a lot. I wonder if the second boss does 4 beams if there's only one person to target. The third boss is going to be really weird because you can ignore the ads. And you can avoid getting vuln stacks if you have a big enough barrier. And I have a feeling that Warrior can produce a big enough barrier. And if that's the case, then yeah. It's going to be very easy. But it's going to be very cool. Should do 4 beams, that's how most limit cut mechanics work. I don't know Because I do recall that if you have less than 8 people in O12 as phase 1, they just give the numbers to the whoever is there, and then they'll just keep dashing into them if people die during it. They'll dash again or something. And there's also a bunch of other mechanics we've seen where it like marks 4 people to do something equally, and it just doesn't. So there's a possibility it doesn't. It would be a lot more painful if it does all 4, but I'm pretty sure that 4 of them doesn't kill a tank. I'm pretty sure it doesn't kill a tank. Green says, Blue Mage sounds very silly. I should maybe put some real effort into it at some point. It is very silly. It is like... it also has a lot of content to do. Like, because you can do a lot of content. Because you can do all the old content with Blue Mages. And that serves a different challenge of its own. Incidentally, doing like an old extreme, but your tank is a Blue Mage and your healers are Blue Mages, like that alone is already kind of weird. Because that means that you have limited amounts of raises, like just flat out, not 1 per minute. You have, you know, a cooldown on your raise. So you can't just, you know, die all willy-nilly. On the other hand, the enrage is probably not a big deal because all Blue Mages hit like crazy hard, even the healers. They just need time to do it. And if you're not there for the spell, I imagine that it's pretty common for Blue Mages to have like planned to finish a boss with Final Sting. If everyone has the space to bring it, that's like a pretty big leap to the finish line. Zarb says we died to Enrage on A8S on Blue recently. I'm guessing because some people died? That's my guess. It was more to say that if you had a normal group, then you have basically all the raises you could ever want. But if people are dead for too long and you have to keep raising them, then you'll fall behind on time and you'll wipe to Enrage. Blue Mages, you have a very limited amount of raises, but usually the amount of damage Blue Mages do is so massive that if you had an infinite amount of raises, then you wouldn't care that people died all over the place because the Blue Mages would be able to do enough damage that it doesn't matter. Post Heavensward Final Sting is not that good, and other spells bring more value. Yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. The Blue Mage toolkit is very tight on the spell slots. And Final Sting it's just one spell, but you only use it once. While it is like a huge like value boost by adding, you know, Whistle on top of it. If you have an ability that you like if you had to choose between Whistle and, I don't know, Sea Shanty. Well, actually, I mean, Sea Shanty might actually be worse because Sea Shanty offers less damage total over the course of the fight. But then again, what if it rains? And what if you mistime the Final Sting? You don't want to do that. If you use it too soon, you're dead. Anyway, Blue Mage is crazy. You'll love it, Yurahin. I think we've done what I set out to do today. Unfortunately, I didn't also get a sheer scope. That was like wishful thinking that we could do 3 with how long the dungeons are now. But if you enjoyed the company of the wonderful people you'll see in the stream chat and me, remember that there's a Discord community server that you can join. We'll find all these people. You'll also find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is happening on the channel this week, where tomorrow I'm putting out a video talking about some of the kinds of mistakes that mages make in content. A little bit like the healer and the tank ones. It's of course not something like, oh no, you did this mistake, now everything's chaos. It's like mistakes that you might not even know you're doing. There's some of the mistakes or things that are like really obvious for a lot of players. But I hope there's something you might also learn from it. Maybe you can add something to it. Not using idle ever. That's a good one, actually. And greed is also a good one. You will also find the announcement room where I put the links to new videos and streams when they come out. And you can also find the role assignments room where you can grab the reminder role. And if you do, you'll get a notification whenever I post about these videos or these streams. And you get an extra notification like 15 minutes before the stream starts. So you don't miss a second. So you can, so you can catch the part where I beat Vanaspati. Or when I enter Vanaspati even. Yeah, I think that's it for that. If you want to support the channel, there's the YouTube membership stuff. There's the super chat stuff if you want. There's also a Ko-Fi page that you can support through if you prefer to do that. It is all optional, but I do appreciate all the support, whatever it is that you like, whether you're here hanging out or whether you're helping, like you becoming a member and all that. I really do appreciate all of it. So thank you so much. And if you did like this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it, and the YouTube algorithm will like it too. It'll tell YouTube that this is a really good stream and other people should watch it too. So naturally, that helps me. Thank you so much in advance. Casters not committing to the cast is a big one. That's true. Wasting time not finishing your casts. I think that also relates to a similar one for healers from the previous one. The oops, I should have been over there mistake. But I think that's everything. I hope you enjoyed discovering we can solo Vanaspati and Caetsu, and we can't solo Fail Court of Troya. And we discovered that there are no fireworks. With that said, good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye!